Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to this podcast, Married to His Will. I am Suzette Blunt, your host and licensed professional counselor in the state of Georgia. If you are listening for the first time, I welcome you wholeheartedly. If you're in a struggle and you feel stuck, you have come to the right place. This podcast is made just for you so that you will know that you can become unstuck. I knew I was married to God's will the day I gave up what I thought I knew to discover what He wanted me to know. Purpose found me in that moment and I let go. God was going to use my struggle to bless my life and to bless others. I originally thought the continuous struggle of my 19 to 20-year marriage was my purpose, but it was only to be used for God's greater purpose in my life. I realized that I did not have to suffer verbal and emotional abuse or any kind of abuse for a lifetime to remain a chosen servant of God, and that the purpose of salvation was not just from eternal hell, but for situations beyond my ability to manage. I became free from a place of bondage so that you can be free also. The Bible says, "No temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man." God is faithful and He will not let you be tempted beyond your ability. But with the temptation, He will also provide the way of escape that you may be able to endure it. 1 Corinthians 10:13. God will provide a way of escape out of that struggle you face. He did that for me. He allowed me to endure 19 years of the same struggle and then said, "I am bringing you out so that you can become who I have called you to become." And now I am totally devoted and married to His will. Invite your friends on the journey with me as I bring the word, share personal stories, and clinical insights from my own experience and my expertise and knowledge. And I plan to have others join me along the way. Enjoy this next episode. Hi, everyone. This is your host, Suzette. I am back with another episode. Today, I am recording on an unusual day. Typically, I am not recording on a Wednesday. I'm usually recording on a Friday or a Saturday. But I felt like while it's fresh on my mind, I needed to come and just talk about what I felt like talking about today. Um, I have a lot going on in my life as a single mom, right? You know my story, having been on this journey of divorce for over a year now, since last April, with the decision to separate. And upon the moment that I decided to separate from my husband, it felt like, wow, I have been made free. That's what I felt. I felt like, oh, I can celebrate because the suffering is over after 19 years. And it's not like I was afraid of suffering. I've suffered throughout my life with different things, right? I'm a I came from Jamaica, right? I lived in with my family, and God has used our gifts to bring us out of certain tough situations or help us to be free from even poverty and just the things that we had to experience as children coming from a country like Jamaica. And then coming to the United States, having to assimilate to a new culture. I know what suffering is like. Okay. And also suffering in a relationship. So being married to my husband for 19 years was a growing up experience that I didn't know I could end, right? Or I didn't know I could come out of until I realized I could. I I thought I was doomed for a life of misery because it was what I had to do. I defined myself by being married. And I think I'm learning that who I am is separate and apart from who I'm married to, who I am married to. Who I am is going to be important to the marriage, right? To the person that I do marry. There are very important things that would make a marriage work well, like The fact that we're compatible, the fact that we can agree, right? The fact that we have a vision, right? That because what am I submitting to? What is the vision that I'm submitting to? What's the mission? Submission, the very word means coming under a mission, right? So what is our mission together? And coming into my marriage, I had no thought of a mission. That was not taught, right? I didn't know the real purpose of being married. And so to live with to go into a relationship with such lack of knowledge, or go into a marriage, if I just to specify, not just a relationship, but a marriage without having enough understanding of what you're entering into is, I would say, I would advise against that. Coming through such a journey, the first year, it was clear to me that I had entered something that was probably doomed for failure. But I don't know why at such a young age, at 21, I felt like, okay, I have to bear this cross. A part of it was being in love and infatuated, not just with the person, but with marriage. And my dream had come true once the day I got married. Because if you were like me, you dreamed of being married for a long time, right? And I can say that I was in a relationship with God. I loved God, even as a teen. Like, I was saved. Okay, I know the Lord, and I know Him more now than I did then. But I was serious about my relationship with God, but I lacked knowledge. And what does the Bible say? My people perish for lack of knowledge. So I think my dilemma was that, yeah, I was lacking knowledge. I was lacking understanding. I lacked wisdom, for my life, for my own life at 21 years old. And so I attributed my identity to being in a marriage, right? Being in a marriage with someone I had to learn about, attaching myself to someone I thought I knew, right? Growing through years of trying to figure out who I am while I'm in a marriage, and being confused about who I was because there was so much chaos around me. Like, who am I? Right? I wasn't used to what I was experiencing. So I was disoriented as a person, walking around thinking I had a handle on things, but I didn't. I would be in my prayer closet praying. But God would use all of that to help to strengthen me and to build me up. I learned about myself through the struggle. So it wasn't for naught. It had purpose to it. What I was going through had purpose to it. I'm still who God wanted me to be because of it. Right? He was still making me who I'm supposed to be today. But at a certain point he said, what I want for you is going to supersede where you are right now. And if you stay there, you won't become who I need you to become for His glory and for His purpose. So I'm learning so much about myself through this process. I realized that as I hit 40, I began to have a midlife crisis. I was like, I can't live this way for the rest of my life. That's when I started to think, oh my God, I'm approaching 40. I am so unhappy. I am so miserable. What am I doing with myself? Who am I that I'm bound with someone I don't really want to be with? I remember as I was continuing to work on my marriage, because that's what I thought I needed to do. I have to work at this. I have to make it better, right? I have to continue to pray for him. I have to continue to pray for us and make us better. I remember in my toil of trying to love my husband or be in love, because I hadn't been in love for years. I can't even remember. I don't know. I probably fell out of love for the first 2 years. I have no idea when I fell out of love, but I didn't know. All I knew in my marriage was trying to maintain peace, trying to love. But what I knew is that I really loved him unconditionally, and that I didn't want to forsake him. I wanted to uphold my vows, and I didn't want to hurt him. But I was being hurt over and over and over and over again. I would be forgiving over and over and over and over again. After every incident, after every blow up, when things would be there would just be irrational conversations. I would just forgive. The cycle would repeat over and over. So I questioned myself a lot. I spoke to the Lord often, and I felt strong in the spirit, like, okay, I can do this. I am called to love, right? I'm called to really love beyond myself. I was unselfish. I didn't know that I was dealing with resentment until someone told me I was. So I had to deal with that in the middle of my marriage. I wrote him a letter and I said, I realize I don't like you very much. And I don't know what even came of the letter. I probably still have the letter saved here on my computer. I'd have to go and dive for that because I don't know where that is. But that first letter I wrote was pivotal because I just wanted change. And I remember giving him the letter and I wanted a response back, but I don't know what the response was. We probably talked about it. But what came of it, I don't know. Life continued as usual. And what made me grow even more was my journey to becoming a therapist. I realized I had to face some of my own stuff going through the process of becoming a therapist. I had to be so self-aware, and as I became more and more self-aware, I realized he was not aware of his own self. So I started to teach him what I was seeing and experiencing of him, but that didn't make a difference. So we would go through these highs and very, 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 very low moments. And it felt like a bipolar marriage. I think that's the best way to describe my marriage. It was very bipolar. Up and down. And the ups didn't feel great. The ups were like, family moments or going out or just having fun, but nothing deep. The ups were just regular. But the downs were really down, like chaotic down, like, I don't know if I can handle this down moments. Over and over again. Imagine going through repeated trauma, or repeated suffering for 19 years, and you're looking for an out. I really identify with the man at the pool of Bethesda because I think he really didn't think he could move without help, or he didn't think he could be healed or be delivered from the place he was in unless someone directly took him out or put him in the water, until Jesus gave him a word to empower him and said, rise up. I probably was looking for permission. I was looking for someone to tell me, rise up. You can walk. You don't have to stay in the same place. I had no idea I could until God told me I could. And I was really happy when God said, let go. You don't have to stay there anymore. You've been writing a list. What are the things I love about you? I love about my husband, the things I like, the things I appreciate. And I would say, I appreciate this, about you. And but it was not coming from a deep place in love. It's like, I'm saying this because it's true. I like these are good qualities that you have. But honestly, I'm just really trying every day to see why I'm here. I'm trying every day to see why I'm stuck with you, right? And then, so the release came last April, and I was so happy. And, working through what we're going to do, what the separation is going to look like. And then I filed the divorce June 13th. And, finally getting the wheels turning. And then he moved out in July. And then I felt good to be there with my kids and, run the household well, things like that. Things were smooth for a while. And then I realized I'm getting no support. I have no support. I'm alone doing this, right? Like, this is crazy. I'm on this journey and I feel like I'm doing better than I ever have. But then the suffering started. I started to feel alone. Like, wow, marriage was great, but it was a horrible place. But I had to recognize the parts about marriage that I was missing. I absolutely have no regrets about not being with my husband, because I was being very hypocritical about my desire to be with him. I have had no more desire, no more left in me to try to be with someone I didn't want to be with. And that's the part that God told me, you're being a hypocrite and you're idolizing marriage. And I had to become true to myself, true before God and true before everyone. I was trying to hide what was wrong. I was trying to cover him. I was trying to protect him. And everything was uncovered or unveiled before me throughout this year. Like, okay, that's what was wrong. Why? This is how he really was. This is why I was suffering so much. So the truth that I tried to hide even became more plain to me, because I tried to mask all the things that I saw with what I thought was my unconditional love. Let me cover this fault. And I think that's what I was supposed to do. I think the Bible says that love covers a multitude of sin, but he doesn't want you to be unreal either or inauthentic. And I feel like I wasn't. I don't even know if inauthentic is a word, but I wasn't being authentic or unauthentic. I don't know. Not with my marriage. I wasn't being authentic. With people, I felt I was myself. Like, I just couldn't tell them what was going on because I was trying to protect my marriage and the sanctity of my marriage and my husband. I would never put him on blast. There are times I was tempted after a chaotic moment and a moment where there was like just misery, and a moment where he would be yelling, and then I said, I wish I could just put on blast all the things you do to me, all the things you just how, you behave. That's just not like what people know. Like, nobody knows you're like this. Only me. That's what I would say. Nobody knows. Except the glimpse of what my family saw, right? They saw some of it. But in this moment, okay, so, fast forward the marriage, I filed for divorce, still not divorced. Coming through the year, I did not expect to go through the suffering I have been going through over the year. I've had some really great times, like I've been more happy outside my marriage than I have been in my marriage. But the kind of suffering that I've experienced are the kind of things that I'm realizing are teaching me something about myself and what I just came out of. I've had to uncover a lot about what marriage is, right? And what a real marriage looks like, what God wants for marriage. I've learned a lot about that. And I'm qualified to talk about it after 19 years. I know because of how bad my marriage was, and I've studied marriage, and not just professionally, but I went through a marriage, and there were moments where I felt like we got this, like we're working together and we're putting work in, but most of the time it was me putting the work in to make it work. I felt like he felt content most of the time. Like, I used to ask him, do you feel like everything is okay? Because I'm over here suffering and you over there seem like you're having a good old time. Like, am I the only one that finds an issue with this marriage? Like, what's happening here? We are on two different pages. I think I'm going back and forth with this, but I'm just pouring my heart out today. So I would say between July and January, from July last year to January, just getting things, adjusting, right, to the change of him not living with me. And I even helped him to move, right? Helped him move out and in July. And I remember having to get a loan just to pay the rent, right? No help with that. But I helped him move and all of that. And then January came. I was making more because I started to work on better help again, which I had done previously. But I just wanted to supplement my income some more, so I worked overtime. And I realized when April came, we took a trip, came back in May, and May was like, I felt depleted. I didn't even want to work, but I had to. May came and I saw my bank account was like in the negative. I'm like, okay, God, this is unreal. Like, what's happening? I missed the mark somewhere. And so I just struggled. I felt like, I said, I felt like Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. And I was like, God, I don't know how I'm going to pay the rent. I don't know. I'm not getting help with food stamps or anything. I have to buy food. I'm the one taking care of my 6 children on my own. Like, what's happening? Well, I'm not getting any help. I have a huge car note that now was behind. It was like 600 something to pay for that car every month. I'm telling you, I was like losing it. I started trying real estate and trying to learn it. I was soaking it up and still wasn't hitting the nail on the head. I felt it was like real estate investing. I was learning about that. And I just completely became drained. I thank the Lord for the people who came through for me. The church I've been a part of, Deeper Church with my sister and her husband, as well as Creekside Church. The pastors, Rohan, and the leaders from Creekside, they came together and blessed me to help me get out of the situation. And I lived to see, to be able to get back on my feet from May and June. And since then I've been on my feet, but I'm barely making it. I had to get help, even to get food, the food stamps. And, that's been very helpful because then I can focus on, making sure I meet the rent. And the rent alone is like over $2,000 now. And I'm like, okay. Thank the Lord for being a therapist. I'm able to have a flexible job while I take care of my children. And the Lord had told me to take some time where I'm not overworking and I need to devote time to Him and do this podcast. And so this podcast has been a place of release and a place where I've seen myself growing through the pain, growing through the hard time. It's been very therapeutic for me. I see my power coming back, my strength. I never lost my power. I just needed to recognize it. And so, going back to May was really tough. I had to apply faith, and God came through for me big time. And then June, maybe the middle of June, things started to flow again. I started to increase my income again and, get back on track. Because I don't lack clients. I just have to scale my business in a way that I can make more passively than I do right now because I'm working for every dime, I work every hour. with every client, and I depend on that hour or that 50 minutes, 45 minutes to an hour with a client. And so my day will be full at times. And so I needed to find a way to upscale, and I'm still working that out. But I've decided I'm not going to overwork myself, because then I'm left with just burnt out, and I end up not liking what I do. I end up not liking to meet clients, and I don't even want to pick up the phone when there are new clients calling. Like, I don't have space for you right now. Basically, I felt burnt out, and I'm still at that place where I need a vacation right now. And as therapists, we have to take a break sometimes from the work we do, because it really pulls a lot out of you, and learning to have that self-care is so vital. So lately I've been wanting to take more time for my hobbies and things like that. But that was May and June. Now coming into August, and thank the Lord, even throughout all of this, I've been waiting to finalize my divorce. I started this process without any help from a lawyer or anything. I filed on my own, and all of that. And so I've had to make a lot of corrections along the way with the court. And then I decided, okay, I need a lawyer to help us with the last correction, because I don't know what to do about this. It was having to do with the child support. They weren't going to approve the divorce or finalize anything until they get word from my husband that he is going to help out. And they weren't wanting to hear or accept what he is trying to provide. And so I was willing to go with whatever he said he's willing to give, whatever, but the court's not hearing it. So now we're going to end up going to court. I did get some help from a lawyer to finally get a date for August 24th, which I expect it to be finalized then. But yeah, I'm still going through waiting for this divorce to be final. And in the meantime, just the back and forth with my husband about his part, I've realized I had to just keep my peace and not say anything else, because he's just not seeing. I think there's just a barrier there that prevents him from seeing what he needs to see. Or maybe he just decides not to see it, his part here. But that's not going to be my problem. That's for him and God to work out. So I have a lot of mercy and grace where he's concerned. And my family has had to say, Suzette, you have to be able to take care of your children. And when you don't have it, you're coming to us, your family. So don't just accept anything. And that's what I was willing to do for the sake of peace. But at this stage, God is my provider. He's my source. He is everything. He's shown me that he's my provider. And so God has been giving me some strategies and just ideas in the middle of this. So I'm thankful for that. And I'm really thankful for the kind of job that I do, because I do get to be flexible with my hours. And so that part I am grateful for. But in the middle of all of this, one of my children had a breakdown. I had to confess. This happened just a couple weeks ago. I feel like it was just last week, but it's about 2 weeks now going through this with my son. I'm not going to name him because I want to protect his identity right now, but had a breakdown, ended up in the hospital. He had to be 1013, which I've had to do for clients before. It's not something that you want to happen to your own child or in your own household. So for those of you who do not know what a 1013 is, it's called that in Georgia and maybe other places. I know when I lived in Maryland, we call it an EP, an emergency petition, for someone who who may not volunteer themselves to be hospitalized. So as a doctor or someone who, like myself, a licensed professional who assesses them and realize they are in a condition where they have a mental health crisis, and they may not know that they need to be hospitalized. That's when you emergency petition or 1013 them, as it's called in Georgia, for them to be hospitalized for mental health reasons. So that I wanted to explain that because not everybody knows what that is. That, let me tell you, going through these past couple weeks has been another hell. Okay, because I did not see this coming. I knew without a doubt that this was an attack from the enemy. He saw a way in and he came through the door. And I said, okay, you want to come for my own? Okay, it's about to be a fight. You should have seen me yesterday, y'all. I was driving my son to school because he's, back at school. And in the middle of going to school, he's been texting me a lot saying, I want to come home. He doesn't believe anyone wants him there. He's saying some things that are negative. And I was like, just speaking over him, telling him the truth about himself, that is the word of God, and trying to pour out my love upon him and pray over him. And we've been coming together every Tuesday and Thursday to pray because it's like, I can't do this alone. I need the Lord to guide my hands, to guide my mind, to guide my footsteps with my children. And so I've been in a moment of warfare and getting deeper in as I dig deep to find out, okay, where did I go wrong? What could I do better? I started to look at me a lot more, like maybe I'm not focusing on them enough. But he had me reading Job. And when I think of Job, his friends would say, well, what did you do wrong, right? That you are in this mess. And God said, you didn't have to do anything wrong. This is the journey that you have to walk through. And it even includes your children. And so as I journey with them, I am learning so much. Sometimes it breaks my heart when they'll say things like last night we had a meeting after we prayed, and I was saying, what can I do to help you guys to, reinforce these rules in the house? Like, you guys are not doing your chores as often as you should and things like that. And they were like, at one point they said, Daddy used to monitor us a lot and monitor our phones and be on top of us. And I said, okay, well, do you want me to be always monitoring you and doing everything Daddy did, and I mean, it got me upset a little bit because I was like, okay, these kids are not seeing all that I'm putting in to help them. It hurt me a little to hear that. But I said, when I started saying, okay, you want me to do this like Daddy did? I said, I don't feel like I have to spend every moment of my time looking over you and telling you what you should do. At this point, you know what to do. But they're like, no, we don't want you to monitor, because okay, I could put this back on your phone and I could do this and I could do that. And they didn't want it. I said we could go back to taking away this or I just had to lay it down clearly. You liked it so much, then let's make it happen again. And I'm honestly, I'm like, okay, you're giving me strategy. I'll just become more strict. See if you like that. So honestly, I was just a little upset, but I got over it. They're dealing with the separation in their own way, and I would never come between them and their dad and their love for him. I've encouraged him to, make that relationship happen with them, but and ever so often he'll come and he'll take them out or take them to his church, and some of them will go, some of them will stay. He doesn't have enough room for all of them to fit in the car, but there are times when I've even given my car so he can drive them all. So we've been able to be cordial where that's concerned. And so, they have some time with him, but none of them are ever rushing to go spend time with him, I'm like, okay. I mean, I realize I have to understand that it's confusing sometimes, for them, and they're not wanting to tell me everything they feel because they don't want to hurt my feelings. And I realize I'm not perfect either. Maybe there are ways that I could be more involved and and monitor them a little more. But And then on the flip side, I'm more busy because I'm trying to make a living, right? So I had to explain all of that. So it's really just tough as a single mom. Just I'm realizing this is not a piece of cake. This is not a cakewalk, right? And it's for real a struggle. It is. And I don't mind changing what I need to change to make things better. I don't mind reflecting on my own self and making changes where I need to. I'm about self-reflection and self-assessment. That's what I'm about. So I'm not too proud to be humble, right? I'm not too proud to make a change where I need to for the sake of making my children better and myself better. And so I've realized this is a season that God has me more focused on them, while I'm still trying to scale my business in a way that works better, works well for us. I'm still working that out, but I haven't had much motivation to do anything different with my business. I've just been following the routine of clients every day. But, and then my podcast has been really an outlet for me. And so I believe my energy and my motivation will come again to work on my business and focus on it. But thankfully it's providing. And so, I'm just going to continue to pour into my children. The Lord, I feel like He has me just focused on them and the Word right now. At one point, I joined the praise team at the church, and I'm like, okay, what am I doing? I can't keep trying to do the familiar thing. I can't keep trying to go back to the thing I always do just because I always do it. I have to recognize the season I'm in. So even that, I'm having to tell the leader, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this because it's just not the season. I need to focus on continuing to teach my kids and get them prepared for life. I have a 19-year-old who's just going to school, college, and I'm going through this mental health challenge with one of my sons, and I have to deal with each of their individual education and what they need. I have a 5-year-old who just started kindergarten. It's a lot of transitions happening all at once, and I have to be able to balance my life. I can't just keep doing familiar things just because I know how to do it. I have to know when to end something and when to start something. And I have to follow the timing of God and utilize wisdom in this season. So divorce is hard. I thought about the fact that God hates divorce. This is why He hates it. It is not a walk in the park. It's not. Do you think He likes sin? He hates sin. Why? Because He doesn't want His children to suffer. It's not just because He's God and He didn't want He just want us to love Him. It's not just that. He loves us. It's because He loves us why He doesn't want these things for us. He loves me so much that He hates that I have to suffer this journey, but He knows the reason I have to go through this journey. He is using this for my good. So there are moments where I'm like, man, should I have really divorced? Like this is crazy. Like, ooh, but then every time I think about who I was with, I'm like, well, I know I don't want to be with him. I would rather be single right now than be back in that misery. And so I'm really thankful for where I am. And I know that this suffering is not just for naught, but I know there's a purpose to my suffering. And all the things I'm learning is going to be helpful in the long run. And I'm here for someone. There's a purpose for all of this. So I want you to know that if you're going through a divorce, there will be a transitional period of some suffering, and depending on what the journey God has you on. Not everyone will suffer the journey I've been on. I sometimes said to God, haven't I suffered enough? Like, I prayed so much for my marriage to work. It didn't work. Now I'm praying so much to end this suffering, where at times I just like, oh God, I can't do this alone. This is hard. to manage a household of 6, a whole household of 7, including myself. So 7 of us. It's not easy to do this on my own. It is not. I'm like, Lord, bring him quickly. Bring the man, because they're talking about what their father did. Well, you need to bring whoever needs to be here because this is not easy, okay? But at the same time, I really cherish the time I have, this alone time, to learn of myself and to learn about my children, to love on them, to establish what needs to be established in a more peaceful way. And I'm glad they still get to have a relationship with their father, but there's still things that he's working out. And so I'm waiting for the Lord to finalize this. And so this month, I believe, is the ending of things and the beginning of new and beautiful things to come. And I can't wait to enter that season. Okay. I'm looking for the next. I know. It's just the way that God is helping me get through this. I cannot ignore what he's told me as far as the promises he's given me, because that's the only thing I have to hold on to so that I don't lose my mind. So I thank him for him working all things together for my good. I just want to share my heart. I hope I didn't depress you today, but just know I'm still in my journey and it's about to come to an end. And there's much that I'm learning about myself, about marriage. I love marriage, but marriage, the next one has to be unto God and has to be with someone who has a vision, that we can submit to a vision together, submit to the mission, and make it work. All right, because that's what I'm about now. I'm about purpose. So anyway, I'm about to go, but I just hope with all of what I've said, whatever your situation is, whether you're going through a divorce or a change, whatever is going on in your life, just know that in the middle of it, you can still be walking in the will of God, okay? You can still uphold his word, and that is to stay married to his will. God bless you.